So I'd say it's safe to assume no one needs an introduction to Half-Life, or the expansion packs, which there are 3 of. Although I'm going to be honest, I never played Decay. So there's 2 expansion packs, and also Decay exists. But today, I'm not going to be talking about any of those expansion packs. They've been discussed to death by this point, and we can all reasonably agree that Opposing Force is the best one. No, this time I want to talk about something I would argue could be considered a 4th expansion pack. Namely, Half-Life Echoes, released in 2018 by James Coburn, otherwise known as Mr. Gnang. I hope I pronounced that right anyway. I'd say that this is one of maybe 2 contenders for the title of Unofficial 4th expansion pack. Hell, some might say that this and the other mod are equally worthy of it, so it should be more like the 4th and 5th expansion pack. You play as Candidate 12. Yeah, that's all you get for a name. You're in the Black Mesa research facility during the Resonance Cascade, and, well, frankly, if you've played through the other Half-Life games, you'll know most of the story already. With that being said, I'd like to applaud how the creator of this mod tried to tie things in a bit more with Half-Life 2, since I feel that, as it was, Valve didn't do a fantastic job with it. So, good job on the mod for that. So that's it, huh? Just Half-Life from a different angle again? Well, not exactly. For example, I don't think you run into any of the areas that are explored in any of the other games. So basically the entire mod is wholly original in terms of locations. But let's talk about this mod's atmosphere, because this mod leans much more into Half-Life's horror aspects. Sure, don't get me wrong, Half-Life had horror moments, but it was really subtle, like that one screaming voices sound file you'll hear during On a Rail, or maybe a headcrab jump scare. This mod, however, does things differently. In fact, for about the first fifth of the game, you don't even get a weapon. You're just an observer here. You were nearly killed during the opening by a gargantua, and you're dragged into a back room, left for dead, and when you wake up, all the weapons you could have used are taken. You're stuck wandering through dimly lit areas of the facility, with plenty of zombies around. You know, in case you needed some company. When you do finally find some survivors, they're either out of reach to you, or in one instance you get locked away from them, and when you finally manage to get to them, yeah, they're dead. Nearly the entire first half of this mod is you in dark areas getting more horrors thrown at you. And honestly, I kinda like it. It's definitely a change. I also really like the lighting work in this mod, along with the colored lighting used for a certain atmosphere. Sure, Half-Life also had this, but I think it was done really well here. Now then, speaking of scary, let's talk about Mr. Friendly. Don't know who that is? Well, he was a cut enemy from the original Half-Life, who has been re-implemented into this mod. You meet him shortly after you see this zombie holding up a barrel? Right. Well, anyway, the zombie throws that at you, and just before you're about to die, Mr. Friendly saves you. Sort of. Oh, also your crowbar gets taken away, which you just got a little bit earlier. So you have to crawl through the vents, all the while hearing and seeing glimpses of Mr. Friendly himself, culminating in a short sequence where you have to run away from him. Honestly, I really like this moment in the game. You know, even if ladders are my worst enemy in a Half-Life game. Oh, but things aren't over yet. You'll see this gargantua roaming around the facility sometimes, which, yeah, you're going to have to deal with, since it keeps messing with you throughout the mod. There's also this pretty neat sequence where the security guard uses the announcement system to signal to you.
Hello there, amigo. Up to your control room.
I don't know, I just found that neat. I don't like how he was interacting with this bull squid, though. After an encounter with the gargantua, again, you get a sort of cutscene on this elevator. And honestly, I really like the cutscenes in this mod. I don't think they overstay their welcome, and it really goes to show just how irrevocably screwed Black Mesa is after the Resonance Cascade. Speaking of which, the Resonance Cascade can now spawn mini-bosses and waves of enemies, namely these Vortigaunts, and later on a powered-up alien grunt. Before that, though, you meet a worker with a very nice mustache, who needs you to find a security guard. This sequence actually takes a while, though that isn't a complaint. We get to see the military as they enter Black Mesa, which is another nice piece. We also see that aforementioned alien grunt mini-boss, which actually took a few tries when I first played this, but is pretty easy now. Strafe and shoot with a shotgun. Also, I'm playing this on normal difficulty, just so you know, since the difficulties in Half-Life games are usually hilariously easy, actually a proper challenge, and insanely cheap for no reason. I'm looking at you in particular, opposing force. I had a couple times where my HP got way lower than it should have, but those were usually my fault, either because I wasn't paying attention and a zombie slapped me around for 20 health each, or I literally fell down a ladder. Have I mentioned how much I hate gold source ladders? Because I really do. I also found how the worker communicates with you on the screens in the facility really funny. There's just a version of him in a white void. Pretty neat, honestly, even if the effect is rather easy to break. We also see, the purple room. My favorite room in the facility, of course. With a floating crystal in it. Yeah. And then we get a cutscene. Again, I like the cutscenes, this one included, although admittedly, this is where I start to lose the plot. So the Kingpin, another cut enemy, is somehow involved, and G-Man wants to stop it? But what's its motive, though? Anyway, we find a security guard and... Okay, actually I should mention this now. I'm not big on the HD models, but I couldn't find a way to turn them off in the menu. I mean, they're not awful, and you could argue this was the way that the mod developer intended for it to look, so I'm fine with it. I'm not a no HD models ever guy, though the option for the regular models would be nice. But hey, this security guard is cool. Not only does he get an HEV suit, but he also has the Magnum revolver, and he doesn't even have to reload it.
I got another one.
We find a scientist along the way, after we see Mr. Friendly again, and deal with some Black Ops which were actually really easy. Yeah, they barely posed a threat if I'm being honest. Of course, this scientist really introduces a problem. You see, this is still Half-Life at the end of the day, which means you still have to babysit the AI and make sure it doesn't break partway through. You know, like it did.
I'm going to stay here and wait for my colleagues. I certainly hope you know what you're doing.
Luckily, this segment is relatively short. The door finally gets open for the reincarnation of Funny Mustache Man, but uh-oh, here comes the military, who think they found Friedman because of the guard with his HEV suit. Oh yeah, and then the Gargantua comes back. We escape, of course, and then we notice that the military isn't doing so great with their mission. Eventually, we're fighting more and more of the military, including this guy. Okay, honestly, that made me laugh. Oh, also here's some light body horror where snarks explode out of people's bodies. We get a pretty neat turret segment, followed by going outside, blowing up a helicopter, and fighting no less than a tank, which then comes back, and we're out of rockets. But don't worry, we have another weapon we can use. Oh, hey, cool, that's the Gargantua again. Hey, tank, here you go, meet a Gargantua. We hide, find the gluon gun, somehow, and we finally destroy that Gargantua. Oh yeah, also the facility gets blown up. We see a cutscene many years into the future on the Borealis, and then we get teleported to base housing, where G-Man reappears again. We see Kingpin doing something. The crystal turns red and angry because, okay, again, I don't exactly know what the Kingpin has to do with all of this. G-Man says the line,
"Prepare for unforeseen consequences."
and then air raid sirens and we get nuked. I mean, we had 1 HP anyway, so I could have tripped over a pebble and died. We see that we weren't hired due to being susceptible to external influence, and get information about candidates 1, 3, and 7, those being Barney, Gordon, and Adrian. Now, while I've sung the praises of this mod, I do have some small complaints. Now, this is more a me problem than anything else, but having heard some of these Kevin MacLeod tracks in many YouTube videos before, it makes a couple segments hard to take seriously. Especially this one where you're surrounded by zombies. My brain stops thinking, oh, this is scary, after a second, and more, oh, it's that song I've heard in tons of YouTube videos. That segment was the only major gripe about this problem, though. The rest were fine. Even the Mr. Friendly segment, where I still recognize the song, didn't really have this issue, strangely enough. My other gripe is the story. Don't get me wrong, it isn't bad, but the additions made I don't really get. Like, I could speculate about what's going on. Maybe the Kingpin is trying to guard against the Combine finding and invading Earth or something. But again, I can only really guess. And finally, the mod can be completed in a couple hours, though to be fair, so could Blue Shift. However, this isn't really a complaint, more so an observation, as the time I did spend on this was very fun. Seriously, great job to the mod developer, James Coburn, otherwise known as Mr. Gnang. There's a good reason why I'm making an entire video saying that this should arguably be considered the 4th Half-Life expansion. And I've played this multiple times now, so I think it's pretty good. Well, that's all for now. Thank you all for watching, and take care.
You are from the Anomalous Materials Lab. Yes, I recognize you. No? Ah, hello, Gordon Freeman. It's good to see you. I don't think so. Big day today, Freeman. Please. Freeman? I really don't know.